Nimbulu na bekani tabeta bulu maniko namba gitali nindo nimbulu happy birthday alumita na yalo sewa namba mainanronga. Fakani rivina kana msamba kiviwa ni kuwa mongone lewa nto wakarorongo vitu ke lewa iriketa na wekamu ngatha na lutu mendeki na no mumbula. Fakani rivina kana wekamu namba usema malolo na duri na balamba muri wa mibio tuti na USP suba. Fakani rivina kama viada kivabe weri mommy house namba mainanronga.
Happy birthday vai serwaya nai talasani loko nandambuile buri station may nalawa may rada buni ko na matene bakini na mumbula na ba nui binaka may berket sar na wakamba kami binga bitata bat kinana na ba nulak na bubale ni Joseph Loko Salomisa bubale rabeti besi bubale na Naweli kena bubale na buni ndakua na nomuni kade bako tingaya ni Michael Loko na tamamuni bale na kami binga rabni ko sasa ngutalanga na ni rubushi sibi kama ita ba na sonita
ro na bitu ni deba na mbitu.
Okay. Iya na number telephone sa may kalungatan na kami binga rabni ko na diwan dua ono liman dua ono kena diwa ruoto lunduan dua vitu diwa.
Daka pakani bina wiki mna kadra pito kan bulu maika kuningola daba na vitu na kaloko na ikavani kuna straight talk. Patake Vijay Narayan ro na minonda bulang ni doka ikina o Aiyaz Khaiyum patake Mr. Biman Prasad. Rabi ko mona porong main salika kambura kyongo na Vijay FM 92.2 FM se ratal ngabi ko mona sarava na kena stream tagi chiko live and Fiji Village and singa sena kabimbongi ni be ngarabli ko nimperanga ni kilometer tau dapat ni bena kabe nito small mami merseni na vakasanga va kabichiko no gututu Rudy Volvola be no chika ni o mess judge se o mess jude era kabini be toka ni binakango
ting ile wasa wala
kala be kam spena ka ko baro tikmano mani ni binakle was ni ni bingrabgo berto na bingrabi gol to tereni bol to mai na mani be Malaysia
kinan 25 seba mendaru kila.
Udah ke bentuk rumah tiga rumah itu mesti kena ngok kurun.
Dolo mendakila kana bono mendala ki bending kina. Kana matata si kamo na www.feo.org.fj singiri tanganan 25 seba. Ang dok kata kanina bakambao na nonggun dingi na bending lebu.
Ule, bagi message ta bongo ye. Free public. Huh?
Free public wifi.
Free na wifi. Wifi sing ni somi no muninga na bua. Damay sota ever shist money school na wakarwengo. Mana bima manitini kina rona singalebu. Wondo ramulili. Na biba kamarotaki. Lebu na reboto wata soli wale na ngone. Tabo ni free wifi hotspot na bua. Wait kone ni walesi. The future is brighter.
Chalesi, au bina kata mendo na ripoti po.
Saka, salenga na kamgo.
Sanga merawa.
Wete ai.
Au bina kata na ripoti Chalesi.
Saka, wosota, na mona liva-livango samboko wakandua.
Ha?
Ni ngole ngave Bondwell.
Kuni taka pangor beo cha.
Bondwell, wal ni mona liba tudoko. Ngada tudoko ngani IT, laptop, smartphone, security camera, power protection kina bunga tale. Ngandreva me baka binakataki si Kobe Bondwell ni kuwa. Bondwell Fiji. Nambandua na IT.
Vunang takiwa soma na lotu nambul ni belomani kinandua bata. Endondonu menda taur matu na tikinongo tanda tu bata. Daga bata nambuli rake non rabi mataka binaka na lubenda. Etu kuni koanga na beka kita usarawata beke muni. Ngara unir na vunang takawabo kina bezati kina bela suti. Senga tu nindua na non rai tuba. Senga non tatandra kasenga bir na belu takibinaka. Erayala lala suti ko nga kabesi wati wabo ki muni dingi takira. Dingi taka na liliu numi kenda tawabo tabakan doban takibiti. Dingi taki borengga mbani marama dingia na FijiFirst senga ni bosa takawalanga matana takasana
ongona itukituk saumi kabagando nuya na buni bola liu ni FijiFirst Aiyaz Khaiyum
sandona nondoru flatfo ye senga tunga na kene ya mendor to ya wakina
kunelanga taka sunbeam ve subrils ve kemuni na randini wale dumbeka no mobile boni rende rosangai baka wati bombeka kangan reba na ya baka libo me vokona ki kina no momri wale dono buna mo wale kina sai subrils dingi taka na kena ongo na sunbeam kabo ngai mbulandende sikoroya ni kuwa subrils the home of quality living.
Okay.
Na, ang diti mo kantina na po ni Sendengo. Raw niyo labuli na kanda to. Daros na dakataka ngayon na kaya raw ni Dingo mo na Sendengo.
Vidan kori.
Wili kaya ni,
Kuni laylay no mo wakambota. Shopping save dar na duruma.
Ha? Oi, yata po shopping save.
Ta, laylavan go. Na kauki na ivale na sovu pauta, toa, sovu, pateta, sudu, bata, varasa, karote, apollo, noodles.
Sa! E po televisaw, maleka
Shop and save supermarket. The more you shop, the more you save.
Sarangalala na itumbo-tumbo mena saumi duruduru ni buli. Vinaka FijiFirst ena isebu ni programa ni buli. Sanga ni saumi ena primary kena secondary. Nondra mothi vinaka toka. Ni satango maki vinaka tuna nondra bei mataka na ndui lubendra. Oso delpa, NFP kena sotal na isongo-songo baka politiki. Era bakan deo taka na ituku-tuku lasu taki. Rayale ala lasu, katokona na ital no lasu. Dingi taki borenge mbai ni marama. Dingi taka na FijiFirst. Sanga ni bosta taka walenga. Matana taka sarana.
Ongana itukutuk saumi kabagando nuya na buni bola liu ni FijiFirst. Aiyaz sayad Khaiyum.
I love to shop at Baby Jack's. That's a fact. They have all the accessories like beads and bags, party sets, baby dolls and baby clothes. Dress me up, mommy, from my head to my toes. Hurry, mommy, there's something for you too. Mommy tops, mommy pants, made just for you. That's why I love to shop at Baby Jack's.
Now open next to Deluxe Footwear, Renwick Road, Suva.
Election time is near, it's time to vote. Find your polling station now, and please take note. With your registration card, you can go to the polls. Election staff will check if you're on the roll. When you get your ballot paper, make your pick. You can cross or circle or just tick. Come and vote on election day.
Nondra beliu takinganga nonda liu borenge mbani marama etunde kina koviti etukuni koanga na bika kitu sarawata bike mni ena senga ni ava na bika ngo kera asenga ni bakanga taki nonda itambangoni senga ni semba undo na maten tu mai liu memba wakata tu nondra vau baka sama na itambangoni ena ulutanga mbimbi so me bakana tu baka ilava nonda maten tu dingi taka na FijiFirst meto mana tinga na rawati nonda bima taka bibinaka we ira nonda itambangoni kiviti dingi taki borenge mbani marama dingi na FijiFirst esenga ni bosa taka walanga matana taka sarma.
Ongana itukutuk saumi kabagando nuya na buni bola liu ni FijiFirst. Aiyaz sayad Khaiyum.
Viti FM.
DJ DJ Prasad.
Election time is near, it's time to vote. Find your polling station now, and please take note. With your registration card, you can go to the polls. Election staff will check if you're on the roll. When you get your ballot paper, make your pick. You can cross or circle or just tick. Come and vote on election day.
The Pacific Green Furniture Sureti ke muni kina lutu sambule buni bulongo kando bakai dore ne ambaki na sale bima tangali aya kando bulitaki kibono tani membaleta no mulo mani wali kana rumun mode venoni biba maru taki se bali bola musu sombro kendre sau wakam bole labo ena pakru taki talngana i pakaloma binaka lutu sampu kango buka kusar ni lata na isa lawa kingo membaleta na bakra kina singa tambu sarangango karusubul kabitu kina karusubul kawal singa mena dio na mataka kina bana kloko na kabi Pacific Green and Queens Highway malanggerengere singa toka.
E nangaunongo na tampana rarang benisuka ibiti e sarawata tikwe vei mama nandobu kina suka ke baka tauto watataki ni sembera na buabiri ni ronondol kaono kasama ilutu talangana kenre wili nandaute indobu mai na tini kawalo nondolu kini tini ka ronondolu na nomundigi taka na NFP e na bakande taka na nonra taura nandaute indobu e ndona nrau nandola ni ndona tani nandobu na ngauna kami kamida e na lesu telemai na makana vei sau dingi taka na NFP
ongona itukutuku somi wakantonyo ina wuni won lewo ni NFP o jaganat sami.
Marota ka na diwali na boli aya baka libo na Panasonic vina Harry. Baka nga taka indon na lima sa bulkan doon $1 na boli Panasonic 2-in-1 blender. So liwali min na rice cooker. Sarava na makarasese ni Panasonic 55 inches 4K UHD Smart TV and runondolo diwan na raw desa bulkan $1. Na muwali na home theater system. Voli na Panasonic 9kg auto washer and donondolo limon raw tini kaono $1. Na muwali na ovani microwave. Se voli na Panasonic 2-door refrigerator and donondolo ron raw desa bulkan $1. Rawan niyo sosomi baka lalay vina Harry. Iti ko na kaya lavaki. Happy Diwali, may vina Harry.
Ah, dapat tali, Rochiko.
Portale tang na sere, ah?
Awa, dua tali ko. VTFM. Hello.
Hello, nawatingku. Awe tuko na nga ni Bacon donaka.
Yon na ba Rosi?
Ya kavingo, personal iwa kavinga i Burger King.
Ay, balata na ba?
Oh, Burger King sa tolu tali no to burgers po. Na Angry Burgers.
Oh, wait, etolu. Wala na kira tuan duin meva kana angry veggie, angry sauce, kena jalapenos. Totoka na kini kana kona mamau vinaka. Fakarutaki ena tambara kita ngani Burger King ena nota menua. Gori matin tarnandi ngani lau suba kena kasi.
Nangangado non rabiliu taki non de iluliu o borrenge mbaini marama. Enganga katunda ikina koviti. Ongo na vika kita usarawata. Seng ni so mena iduru ni buli. Ratauri sendele abone itau kiningele. Marrabina ka non dangele na lawatu. Rabanga taki ni tambangwane kina marama na tareda ki non da rawa kabinaka. Rawa na balimbula. Ngoni sala liba kena vinga raviraramba. Enda tunde senga na bewa sei katango magitu. Dingi taka na FijiFirst. Me tomana tiunga na rawati non da bima taka bibinaka. Dingi taki borrenge mbaini marama. Dingi na FijiFirst e sanga ni bos takawalanga e matana takasaranga.
Ongana itukutuk sa umi kabagando nuya na buni bola liu ni FijiFirst Aiyaz sayad Khaiyum.
Ni masi ka na nga ni boli aya bakaliba sa mga teko todo ko bi gokals. Kataudo ko.
Kakere.
Kataudo ko nga. Nabi aya bakaliba bibinaka. Kau akambulan nindi. Era sina ibuto ko tuelo my gokals. Ya varongo na Philips, Siemens, Whirlpool, Mitsubishi kay na sotale. Gokals teko kedewa. Kataudo ko nga. Si ko bi gokals suba nakasi lambasa kay nandi.
Oh, demba maganda na kango.
Oi, nada bogor.
Munraw, na Apple na Google Play Store ni Android ngoka. Sa raw nende kilaki na COD sa liwe na winding-dingi.
Oh, bera vale munraw. Tiko talinga na App Store ni no Apple phone go.
Oi, darusan roa. Bongi ni winding-dingi lewu. Ena ba kau mai na app ni FEO ena matala ni wili mai na beya sana. Raw ni odingo makina na matala ni winding-dingi ni pati kena mata kondingi taka. FEO Results App. Vaka vondoka raw ni kuwa.
Sa copy baba. Boy, same story, same concept, almost everything. But they just can't beat the original. Wana na mga veo na VTFM Vakandua.
Sambuto
2018 general elections. The issues that matter. The people that matter. This is Straight Talk with Vijay Narayan.
Delay, but it's all good. We are all here. I can confirm to you that both the FijiFirst General Secretary, Mr. Aiyaz, Khaiyum, and NFP leader, Professor Biman, Prasad, are in studio with us, and we will have live coverage for you. We have, gentlemen, people tuned in from overseas, people who are watching on Facebook from all around the country and all around the world, and we saw that the numbers started to pick up from around 6:15, saying they are all ready and they are looking forward to this debate. So thank you again on behalf of our listeners on VTFM and also Facebook Fiji Village. Mr. Khaiyum, any comments to our viewers and listeners?
Well, no, firstly, my apologies. I'm the one who's caused the delay. Sorry about that. But no, it's good to be here and obviously have a chat with Biman about the issues that we have going into the elections and what NFP represents and what we represent. But my apologies once again, both to Biman and yourself for the delay.
Professor Prasad.
Well, greetings to the listeners, and as I said to you, Vijay, before, we hope that we have a leaders' debate as well. But I am very pleased to have the real leader of the FijiFirst and have the conversation.
Well, let's get right into it. First issue, a lot has been said in relation to this issue. I think you have said it both in your own campaign meeting venues. Mr. Prasad, you have said that you are targeting to implement a $5 national minimum living wage in your first 100 days in office. After your comment on Straight Talk earlier this week, the Textile, Clothing and Footwear Council has said that this will result in about 7,000 job losses, affect thousands of Fijians, and it could even see the death of the industry, which currently brings in $100 million in foreign exchange. Mr. Prasad, do you maintain your stand after finding out what the statement has been given as far as the council is concerned from the textile, footwear and clothing industry?
Vijay, we announced this policy 16 months ago. And here, just on the eve of the election, we have this bunch of businessmen from the Clothing and Textile Footwear Council coming out and threatening the country and the workers of this country that there will be job losses. What we've said very clearly right from the beginning, and we have not misrepresented what we said in our written policy, that when we come into government, we will consult with all the stakeholders.
My question, sorry, Mr. Prasad, my question is, will you maintain your stand?
We are maintaining our stand, and I want to say to the workers of this country, no amount of threats like that, and as I said on your station, when we come into government, no worker will lose his or her job, and no business is going to run out of business.
You make that clear. Mr. Khaiyum, what is the FijiFirst stand on this, as this has become a contentious issue in this general election now?
Yeah, Vijay, we've been very consistent in what we've been saying. Essentially, we have said that salary increases are essential. Benny Maran was the first person who actually introduced a national minimum wage for unskilled workforce. $2 start off at then $2.32, then $2.68 now. As announced in the budget also, what we have said, there needs to be a review of it. What Biman and the other parties are talking about, they're talking about a minimum wage for unskilled workforce. Because as you know, on the other 10 sectors,
the 10 wages councils,
the different 10 employment categories, they already have their own minimum wage, which is far more than $2.68. So what we have said, we need to do a review not just of unskilled people, but also a salary review for all those people, the forklift drivers, the boiler makers, the waiters and waitresses in the hotels. They also need a review, because you see, if you are going to only look what they're doing, I mean, this is all sort of politicking by them. if you're only going to look at unskilled workforce at $5 minimum wage, what will happen to these other people? They'll also have a spillover, a multiplier effect. They'll also demand higher wages. So how do we actually calculate that too? So we have said, as announced in the budget, let's do it over the next 18 months. We've said we'll do that. Get in experts. We need to look at things like social wages. What is the impact of social wages, where people get paid various subsidies, they get various forms of payments made on their behalf by government. Let's factor that in. The other point is also, I mean, I can understand the TCF. I mean, Biman is trying to make it out some form of conspiracy. It's not a form of conspiracy, because obviously, in all countries, whenever you come closer to election time, then people will actually start making comments. And the reality is that it will have a huge impact on the garment industry. We are competing with countries like Bangladesh. We are competing with countries like China. Over the past number of years, we've managed to sort of reconfigure our garment industry to be low volume, but higher end market, but still they have to compete.
So, Mr. Khaiyum, you were saying 18 months full review, and then you will decide on unskilled workers' wage rate, and for the 10 wages councils.
Yes, I mean, all categories of workers, they also deserve a pay rise, but we need to be able to look at the spillover effect. Let's factor everything in. Let's not just focus on the unskilled workers. They're saying $5, Sodelpa is saying $4, Hope is saying $10. It's getting a bit ridiculous. What we need to do, we've never said people don't deserve a pay rise. Let's do it in a sustainable manner where people don't actually lose jobs, and in fact we actually create jobs. That's the significant part of what we are saying.
We also had the discussion about cane cutters, and we also got a call, Mr. Prasad, about that, about cane cutters, on whether they will be part of this national minimum wage of $5 an hour. Will this be done?
Vijay, let me just respond to Aiyaz when he said that these are for unskilled workers. As I said to you, even in those sectors which are governed by the Wages Council, and especially in the garment industry, there are workers, there are women who have worked in these factories for 18 years and they're still being paid less than the minimum wage of $2.68. Now, what we are saying that in the last 12 years, we haven't had that kind of raise in the... And many of these garment factories, for years and years, they had a tax-free status. We had a reduction in the company tax from 28 to 20%. And yet, many of these businesses who can afford to pay a decent minimum living wage, they're not doing it. And I'm actually quite surprised that I've seen statements from the other business groups today as well. We're not plucking this figure out from some kind of thin air. And Aiyaz knows this, that the 2013-14 household income expenditure survey, if you look at the BPNL, the basic needs poverty line, which actually defines the minimum income that one ought to have, a family of 4, a weekly income, before you can say that you are above the poverty line or below the poverty line. And the 2013 and 14 BPNL is about $220 per week. So what we are saying, even if you work for 40 hours a week with $5 an hour, 45 hours a week, you're still not meeting the BPNL, or you still below or just above the basic needs poverty line. So that's why we're saying that we will get there.
You know this. What do you have to say to that?
He's incorrect. I mean, the fact of the matter is there aren't people who are being paid below minimum wage for the past 12 years. He knows that the law was actually amended when we brought in the 268. We said that there are people, for example, if they work in the garment industry who are completely unskilled, and for them to be in that skilled period, like an apprentice type situation, they actually get paid what we call a learner's wage. And
training rate of up to 3 months, about $2.
Only 3 months. We actually used to be 6 months. We've actually reduced it now to 3 months. So that's incorrect what he's saying. Now he's attacking these business people, etc., this garment industry. The reality is this: it's not just the garment industry. The other day I heard him on your show. I heard snippets of it. He's saying, well, this $5 wage, hour wage, is not going to apply to cane cutters because they get paid by the ton. Now, the fact of the matter is, it's a national minimum wage. There are no exceptions. Next thing we'll hear somebody saying, oh, okay, he'll come and cut grass at your house, he'll cut it by cubic meter. Then we can do it. Somebody's cleaning a house, we pay by the room. How will you keep on making exceptions? When you have a national minimum wage, you don't make exceptions. The reason why it's going on about the cane cutters now having an exception to the rule is because he's trying to get the cane cutters vote, you see. This is the problem. When you try and implement a policy without thinking, but trying to do more for the vote bank, It sounds sweet to people. Hey, I'll get $5 an hour. But what's the impact of it on the economy? What we are saying, look, we need to have pay rises. Let's do it in a concrete manner, in a manner where it is reasonable. Let's get everybody's view. Let's factor in the wages, social wages. Look at the impact on the economy. Look at the impact on jobs and the sustainability of jobs and the creation of jobs.
So in your plan, you also have cane cutters as well?
Look, when you call it a national minimum wage, it has to apply to everybody.
Why you don't have a plan for cane
Vijay,
cutters?
Vijay, I think Aiyaz is also incorrect. My response to your question, what about the cane cutters? Because he is on record talking about cane cutters. All I said was cane cutters right now are not paid according to hourly rate. They're paid according to the tons of cane they harvest. And what I said was, if they have a different system of payment, then obviously, when what we are proposing is when farmers' income go up, I mean, the cane cutters are likely to benefit as well. So it was. I wasn't saying that there is an exception.
Okay,
I was just saying the method of payment.
Let's go there on
method of payment was different.
Let's go to cane farmers'
This is now
payment.
getting into what we call confundry. This is really nonsensical talk, because they are actually making policies on the trot. They have not thought about it.
Because he was saying that the payment, and I was just correcting him, that cane cutters right now are not paid according to an hour. They are paid according to the tons of cane they harvest. So per ton they are paid.
But you'll
that's
have
what I'm saying. I was just pointing out the
national
difference.
minimum living wage, but not for cane cutters.
No, I didn't say that at all. All I said
That's
was...
what I'm asking.
No,
You give a straight answer, please.
Straight answer is a national minimum wage, and he's right. He's right. A national minimum wage would apply to everyone. All I was saying to him was, when he gave that example, how will farmers pay? I said he's wrong, because the farmers right now are paying the cane cutters not on hourly wage rate, but on pay.
Biman, weren't you on your show saying that you'll make an exception? Weren't you on your show saying that, Vijay?
I just said the exception was because they are paid differently, but not
right.
exception to the minimum national wage.
No, I'm asking.
I'm asking. Let's correct this. Let's correct
let's correct this. The minimum living wage of $5 an hour, will you have it for everybody?
Vijay, that will be a legislation. You can't make an exception. You have to understand
the answer yes or no.
People want to
yes.
Okay, yes.
If you have a national legislation, you can't have an exception.
Let's go to the cane farmers. Cane farmers are getting $85 per ton at the moment, with some subsidies for weedicides and fertilizers. You are saying you will give $100 per ton, guaranteed price. With a $15 increase per ton, will the farmers be able to sustain $5 per hour for cane cutters?
Well, Vijay, let me just point out first, in 2014, we in our manifesto said $85 minimum guaranteed price. And obviously, we had FijiFirst people going around and saying, it's not possible. It's
Mr.
not
Prasad,
possible.
We'll be here all night if you don't answer the question.
I'm answering the question. I'm just saying, you need to understand what I'm saying is...
I'm asking you the question.
Government is now proposing $85 after we proposed $100 per ton.
Yes.
And what we are saying is that $100 minimum guaranteed price for the next 4 years is what is going to rescue the industry, because under this government, the industry has declined from 3.6 million tons to 1.6 million tons. Their record has been a very dismal record. And what we are saying is farmers have lost interest. We need to support the farmers' income. We need to bring the production back to a level where we have economies of scale. And that is what we are proposing. And once you do that, the cane cutters and everybody else in the industry is going to benefit out of the increase in income.
Mr. Syed Khaiyum, what's your plan there? You have $85 per ton for cane. He's saying they will give $100 per ton for cane, and that will result in farmers getting a minimum wage of $5 as well. What is your plan? Cane cutters.
You see, again, this is they plucking things out of the air. They have not done the economics. They have not done the financials. Where he does not say how he's going to fund it, number one. Number two, we are saying how we're going to fund it. We have a cane stabilization fund that's been set up. We've obviously talked to FSC. FSC has sold some of his assets. They're putting aside some funds into the stabilization fund. As announced in the budget, government will also fund it as the time warrants it. But that stabilization fund means the cane farmers will get $85 a ton, irrespective of what the world market price is. Because, again, they need to tell the public that the world market price, we're subject to that now. We no longer get the benefits of the EU subsidies, etc. And what we're also saying, that the fertilizer subsidy the pesticide, weedicide subsidy, the new cane planting subsidy, the mechanization that we put into place, all of that will continue. At the end of the day, Vijay, and the farmers actually understand this, the farmers, we need to look at their bottom line. We need to look at the margin. It's not the actual price you're being offered, but it's the cost of the production of that cane is what matters. So I can get $85 a ton. It may cost me $60 to produce that $85 a ton. I get a margin of $25. I can be paid $100 a ton, but it may cost me $90 a ton to actually produce that cane of the ton of cane. So I get a margin of only $10. Margin is what matters, and the farmers actually know. Of course, the cane production has reduced for a number of reasons. It's not because of Baini Marama or the FijiFirst government. He does not acknowledge the fact.
12 years to
he
fix
does
it.
not acknowledge the fact. Let me get back to you on the 12 years. He does not acknowledge the fact that we had land leases being completely not renewed for a lot of cane farmers. In Vanuatu, cane production went into half. It halved. There were 20,000 registered cane farmers, dropped to 12,000 cane farmers. We have an aging cane farmer population. A number of issues. We are the ones who actually introduced Sibul. We're now encouraging landowners. We're actually giving them 4% on top of the 6% UCV rate to encourage them to actually renew leases. And now, of course, leases can be given up to 99 years. And in some cases, we've actually seen farmers getting 99-year leases. That builds confidence.
Mr. Prasad,
I haven't finished it anyway.
They haven't done enough for 12 years?
Vijay, the statistics speak for itself. I mean, in 12 years, since 2006, the production has declined from 3.2 million tons to about 1.6 million tons. This government cannot continue to go back 12 years and say, oh, because what happened in 2005, 2006. I mean, you had 12 years. And if you are not able to reverse the trend, the declining trend, then there needs to be some shock therapy. And what we are proposing, and I think what the government has done is they actually copied what we said in 2014, because we recognized in 2014 that the price was not good. Farmers needed motivation, farmers needed income support, and therefore we said $85 then. And after 4 years, we've assessed what has happened in the industry, and we appreciate the government is providing the subsidy for fertilizer and weedicide. I think that goes to help to a certain point. But that's a very small amount in terms of per ton, and if you look at the cost per ton or per acre. So what we are saying is a very carefully thought out policy, and Aiyaz knows that I moved this motion in Parliament, and I said where we can get the money from the budget. So what we are saying is $100 per ton will motivate.
Where will you get the money from?
Don't worry about that.
You see what I mean?
No.
You see, when you go into elections,
I'll tell him. I'll tell him.
Let the listeners decide. I'll let you discuss.
He is in government. He knows what's happened there. When I moved the motion and I said, cut $50 million from the Fiji Roads Authority budget, give this to the farmers. They didn't listen. What we will do is we have identified, and I know what's in the budget. We have identified all the reckless spending that this government has engaged in over the last 4 years. What we will do is we will cut that. We know how much 1.6 million tons is going to cost in terms of the price difference that we are going to pay the farmers. And we know, and I think the people know that we would be able to do that. The farmers know that.
Mr. Syed Khaiyum,
This is how hollow
what's your assessment on his plan?
This is how hollow the argument is. So the reckless spending. What reckless spending? He can't even itemize what spending he's talking about. Taking $50 million from FRA.
We might spend 2 hours here doing that.
He does not even say how it equates to that. They're going on about, the climate change initiatives. People should stay in Fiji. The entire climate change initiative has actually been funded by donors. They know that. We actually have a trust fund account. There's no reckless spending. In fact, what I wanted to say to you, Vijay, is getting back to the main point. The reality is many of the cane farmers actually feel very confident about it. We obviously engage with them. He'll say that he engages with them, but we engage far more with them than they do. And we actually are not taking a political view. We've tried to, and the Prime Minister has always said this, let's try and depoliticize the sugar industry. And we need to continuously do that. The reality is that there has been a lot of systemic issues. He also knows the fact, you've been there for 12 years. He knows from 2007 till up till 2011 or so, there was a lot of, There were travel bans, all sorts of things. People weren't appointed to boards. Now we have a good chairman. We have Vishnu Mohan. We have a good CEO, Graham Clark. These people are professionals. Vishnu's dealt with commodities. We've got a good board now. Even he was invited by myself personally. He knows that. In 2008. He knows that. I remember the place I spoke to.
Professor Prasad, were you
come and help us. Come and help us with the budget. He said, yeah, I'll come. But he never turned up.
Were you invited?
Listeners and viewers they were interested in going to the cocktails.
Aiyaz knows my views about military coups in 87, 2000, including 2006. And
I don't know your views.
I wasn't in the mood of supporting a military government, and obviously I said very
even
clearly.
If your country needed assistance?
Well, no. I mean, I was not in the business of going and supporting a military government when you overthrow a democratically elected government. I'm here. There is a parliament now, and now I'm happy to engage. And I want to tell Aiyaz, I moved a motion in parliament. All throughout Fiji's history, we had a bipartisan committee in parliament. They refused. I offered. I said, I want to be in a bipartisan government opposition committee on sugar, and we can work together. I've offered this to him, to the Prime Minister many times, and they have refused to.
Because it's politicized. See,
it's not politicizing.
Sugar industry does not need to be politicized. You don't need somebody from NFP.
You are a politician. I'm a politician.
Don't need somebody from NFP. We are in government. You are not. That's the problem. You see.
You don't understand democracy. Then
no. It's not.
You don't understand democracy.
You don't need bipartisan approach to be able to run a commercial industry. Why don't you say let's have a bipartisan approach to PEFCO? Let's have a bipartisan approach to Ports Authority of Fiji. Bipartisan approach to AFL. It's just another sector of the economy. The reason is historically it's been a political issue. Because historically, let's call a spade a spade. Historically, the sugarcane farmers have been Indo-Fijians. Historically, the landowners have been the Itauke landowners who've leased it. If you look at NFP, the Federation Party was actually built in the cane fields, and there was other political parties. That's where it formed its genesis. So that is the reality, and that is what happened. If you look at the 1987 coup, when Rambuka carried out the coup, the farmers went on strike. And Rambuka said, you can't go on strike, because it was seen as a political tool. Both sides saw it.
So you're saying there's no bipartisan agreement, as
what
he's
we are saying
to
is
work
that
together.
we need the professionals. We need professionals like Vishnu Mohan, like Graham Clark and others to come and run, for example.
Keep the politicians out.
Keep the politicians out, get the professionals to run it. And this is the problem with them. You see, they want to politicize everything, in particular sugar. They don't have a bipartisan approach to Ports Authority of Fiji, or AFL, or PEFCO, any other thing.
Vijay, I think this is the very symptomatic of this government. They actually talk about genuine democracy. I mean, Parliament is the most important oversight legislative body for any country. And in a democracy, a government, the opposition is as important as the government. The government's job is to govern. The opposition's job is to hold the government to account. And in fact, all the questions should be to the government, not to the opposition. We have the right to ask all the questions. And this is the problem. This government has not been able to explain why in 12 years, I mean, the Prime Minister is the chair of the ITLTB. There should have been no problem with the lease renewal. They had complete freedom. They killed the Growers' Council. They had complete control on the industry. Yet, in 12 years, we have not been able to reverse the trend in the decline in the production.
How's the lease renewal rate, Mr. Said?
You see, this is he demonstrating his ignorance of how the land system works. If you have the Prime Minister as the chairman of TLTB, he cannot force land-owning units to renew leases.
He can negotiate.
He cannot force land-owning units to renew leases. It's their call. This is the problem. He does not. Again, you see, this is the politicization of it. The land-owning units, they have the right to decide and choose and say, yes, we want to renew our leases or not. That's their right. They own the land. Very simple. Now, it's not a question of negotiation. It's a question of making them aware that if you don't renew the leases, this could be the impact. If you renew the leases, this could be the impact. Obviously, in Vanuatu, for example, when Niko Nawekula and Garikau went to Vanuatu and told all these landowners not to renew the leases, they did not say to them, okay, if you don't renew the leases, this will be the other economic fallback that you have. Let's get into other type of planting. They politicized it, so therefore leases weren't renewed. Areas where there are schools, where there are shops, all closed down, buses stopped running. the land is lying fallow, it's running idle. So that's what I'm saying, is that if you politicize it, that will be the outcome. Yes, we can create awareness. It demonstrates there are many flaws.
Depends on the landowners on whether they want to renew their leases or not.
Things like TCTS has improved significantly. TCTS in our
Vijay,
bills have increased significantly. So, Vijay, the fact of the matter is that the sugar industry, of course, has been through its throes. We've been through its issues. We are now on a steady keel. The cane farmers are feeling confident. The number of this aging cane
Will production increase?
The production will increase.
Is increasing?
It is increasing. You look at it.
Hasn't
cane
increased.
production will increase. Now, we are providing all sorts of assistance now. We got a new initiative for new cane farmers to come into it. We are now getting some younger farmers interested getting back into cane farming because they find the security of tenure. They find that government is actually giving them assistance to do so. And you watch the space for the next couple of years. You'll see it increase.
And your total cane to total sugar output is improving as well.
See, TCT,
Vijay,
obviously total cane to total sugar is the ratio, of course. We're using less cane to produce more sugar now.
Now, we'll move on from sugar. We'll move on from sugar. Mr. Prasad, do you have a plan for job losses? We'll go back to that statement in relation to Textile Clothing and Footwear Council, because everything went towards sugar, so I thought that we just address that before we go into that about job losses, because those business people have said there will be job losses, there will be loss of $100 million in foreign exchange revenue. What about families that have house girls? You have said that they should not worry as there will be a package. That was said on Monday night in our talkback. How will you coordinate that? And what will happen? So
Vijay,
one is job losses in relation to these businesses that say they cannot sustain the $5 living wage that you were saying. And the other one is families that have house girls, and maybe Mr. Syed Khaiyum had given an example. If someone is earning $6 an hour and the house girl will then be paid $5 an hour, when we asked you on Monday night, you had said that they should not worry as there will be a package. Can you please explain about
Vijay,
how you'll coordinate that?
I can understand why the FijiFirst and the candidates will go and beat the drum about job losses, and it's actually quite interesting how these employers, after 16 months, suddenly springing up and saying there'll be job losses. They're being alarmist. What we said very clearly in our policy, and it's written, and we publicized it extensively, and we said very clearly that we will have a phased implementation of a minimum living wage with a policy package, with proper consultation with all the stakeholders. And right 16 months ago, I said that very clearly. and I know Aiyaz goes and gets the Fiji Sun to say, the
This
cat
is not the Fiji Sun, this is straight talk.
Well,
Let's talk straight.
Cat is out of the bag. There was never a cat in the bag. It was always very clear
Which one is it? There's a cat or
what,
no cat?
what we wanted to do. So, I mean, no amount of fear mongering. And I tell you what, I won't be surprised, if Aiyaz pops up tomorrow at the garment factory with 1,000 workers and saying, all of you are going to lose the jobs. That's not going to happen. And I want to say this again. That when we get into government, we will be a responsible government. As I said to you, Vijay, in the first 100 days, we will have extensive consultation. There will be when you get a legislation, you go through a process of consultation. Unlike his government, we will have a thorough consultation on a legislation which will have.
You can do all of that in 100 days.
Well, we will. And as I said, once we have the appropriate legislation, and as I said in there very clearly, so I'm actually quite surprised. I think there's some kind of sinister motive on the part of these employers to actually, help the FijiFirst party to win votes.
You're a joke.
No,
Seriously,
you are a joke.
You're a joke.
You're a joke because
He's got his chance now. You've had your chance.
You see, this guy, he always is all this conspiratorial thing, always going on for the past 4 years. He cannot stomach the fact when he goes on about democracy that he is not in government. Now, the way democratic systems work is there is a party, and if the party wins majority of the seats, it forms government, because the people have voted them in to govern them, and they have policies and they implement it. The opposition is there. Of course, there's parliamentary committees, etc. And they go about doing their parliamentary work. It does not mean they come and tell us how to run government. They are democratic institutions, they are democratic systems, you adhere to that. See, the reality is this. He has now said to you there's going to be a package. They're harping on about $5 an hour before.
Always said that.
One of his candidates has Prem Singh said, Charanjit Singh said, we will implement it as soon as it's legislated, right? He has not talked about a package. I think Pramod Chand has said the same. Prem Singh is saying, well, some people cannot pay. Charanjit Singh is saying, we've said to them, we've challenged them, if you believe it should be paid $5 an hour, why don't you start paying it now? Very simple thing. Now, he's attacked my father and everybody else in the whole fray. Now, not him, but Charan has. He's his candidate. This is the caliber of people we have. But the reality is this. He said, oh, I can't pay $5 because the supermarket next door to me, it won't be fair to them because they cannot afford to pay it. You see, this is the kind of quandary that they're in. And this is the quandary that you let yourself in if you actually don't do proper analysis. This is what will happen when you start trying to buy votes in the same way they're making all the sweet sounds to civil servants and specific groups of people. That's what they're doing. I'm telling you, Vijay, it will be economic disaster, God forbid, if NFP forms government. They can't form government on their own. I know they'll form a coalition with Sodelpa if you ever reach that place. But the fact of the matter is, they will lead us to economic disaster. What we've been saying to you, we have a decisive leadership, we have a strong leadership. You know, he made a jibe at me in the beginning saying, oh, you're the real leader. I don't say stuff like that to him. Why does he have to do that? We're here to talk about politics, about policies. We have a decisive leadership, we have a strong economic management in place and practice, practical implementation, 9 years of straight growth in Fiji. He may say it's modest. The fact of the matter is we've never grown for 9 years, despite Winston. If you want to go back to the statistics from 2007, yes, it's above 2%. He does not talk about the GCF and all of those things, the global financial crisis, GFC. All of those things need to be factored into it. The reality is we are growing, we're in a good space, let's keep the momentum.
Talking about decisive leadership, let's talk about decisive leadership. You've talked about a package that will come with the $5. When we had the talk back on Monday night, I got some messages about families that employ house girls, and they're paying them about $40, $45 a week, $50 a week, and they said, Mr. Biman Prasad hasn't addressed this issue. What will be in the package for me? I want to know. I'm not a big business person. I'm just at home, and we go to work, and a house girl is doing certain things. What is in the package?
Vijay, just as when government does bring out a policy, there are always details that come later. I can't give you all the details. All I want to say...
You have to tell those people who contacted me.
Our people are much more intelligent than sometimes what we think. They know that we are in opposition. We have said that our goal is to have a minimum living wage of $5. And they understand what we've said right from the day ago, 16 months ago, that when we come into government, we will have consultation, we will have legislation.
What will be in the package?
With a set of policies,
yes,
which will take into account the concerns of every employer and every worker in this country. But let me just get back to
Mr. Prasad. What will be in the package?
Vijay, you know what we've said very clearly in the policy. There is no point in you asking me to give you all the details of what the package will be,
so
because we are saying
the specifics at this stage.
We don't have the specific. What I can say to you, the specifics that we have is that we will, in the first 100 days, have a proper consultation with all the stakeholders. We will come up with the legislation, the package of policies which we stated very clearly, which will address the concerns of everyone. But let me come back to what Aiyaz said earlier. I mean, he's the Attorney General, Chief Legal Advisor.
This is
very important.
Can I just say one thing?
This is very important.
Because I called him Biman, he now wants to call me. He knows that I'm still the AG. Yeah. You've been saying that. You see, this is the kind of power politics.
You are here as a secretary of the FijiFirst party.
But that's fine. That's fine.
You're not here as the Attorney General.
That's fine.
But what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter whether I call you AG or.
Let's go past.
But let me.
Let's go past that, gentlemen. We don't have a lot of time. We don't have all night, gentlemen.
I was saying in relation to what he said about Charan Singh. The point was that you cannot, and he knows that. He knows that you cannot have one businessman or two businessmen going and paying something which the others may not pay. You're going to create all sorts of distortions in the economy.
I'll tell you, it's nonsense.
So what?
There are various hotels at the moment.
So what we are saying
there are
is,
various hotels at the moment.
You don't expect
the
them
minimum wage is $3.40
Yeah,
for waitress.
let me finish.
But there are other hotels that are paying them $5. You see, this is nonsense. This is
No.
just trying to protect
But what?
this nonsensical
But
statement.
this is like taking a cheap shot at
No,
our
it's
candidates. Because
No.
the NFP has announced a policy, it's a really cheap political shot to say, hey, you people are proposing this policy, why don't you pay now? And I'm saying no. I would tell them, don't do this until we bring a legislation, until we have done the consultation, until we have put the package, because otherwise it's going to distort everything else out there in a particular sector, whether it's a retail market, whether it's
You told them don't do this at the
No,
moment.
they can't do that now.
No, sir.
Yeah.
Can
So
I
it's a very
legally
cheap
make a
political
correction?
short
Can I make a
to
legal
say,
correction?
yeah.
Can I make a legal?
Go
You
ahead.
said that they can't do it. They can do it because at the moment, for example, there's a waiters and waitresses. The minimum wage is about $3.40, $3.45 an hour. There are some hotels that actually do pay more, and it is whether it is done through legally. It is what he may call a distortion of the market. Just because it's been legislated, Honorable Prasad, I should not call you Honorable Prasad, or Biman, just because it's been legislated at $5 an hour, does not mean that therefore there won't be people who won't be paying $6 an hour. Don't they understand?
No,
that?
I
So
understand
the
that.
reality
I
is-
understand
Vijay,
that, but
the
for you
reality
to
is that
pick
the market forces do decide.
Yeah.
There are, for example, people at the moment in Suva in the construction industry who are doing a laying of bricks getting paid $7, $8 an hour. A welder gets paid $16 an hour. You don't actually have to have, just because the minimum wage of a particular category of employment is set at the minimum wage, it does not mean everybody will pay the minimum wage, because it depends on the market demand. He knows that. He's the economist. He knows that. So, Vijay, my point is, what I said to them, if you really believe the people of Fiji do deserve $5 an hour minimum wage, pay it to them. It's not going to create any distortions. The market is already distorted according to you if people are already paying more than the minimum wage in other categories of employment.
Mr. Prasad, your response to that?
I think it's a cheap political shot at the
Shouldn't
candidate.
pay it right now,
well,
after the legislation?
It's up to them, but it's not for
up to them. You see?
It's not for him
It's up to
to
them.
come
You're
and make
straight
the issue.
talk
because
with Vijay Narayan. Gentlemen, let's go to a break. Maybe take a breather and we'll be right back.
Cheap political shot.
Straight Talk with Vijay Narayan continues after the break. This is Straight Talk with Vijay Narayan.
Welcome back here on Straight Talk, and we have our guest tonight, FijiFirst General Secretary Mr. Aiyaz Khaiyum, and National Federation Party Leader Professor Biman Prasad. Now, going on to the next issue, which has been also a contentious issue, a lot has been said about the overall cost of living. Let's talk about some of these issues. VAT was reduced from 16% to 15% to 9%, while VAT was also imposed on the zero VAT items. Mr. Prasad, you have said in a campaign meeting in Tambia that the FijiFirst has stabbed the stomach of the people by doing this. Your comments?
Precisely. Because in the 2014 manifesto, Vijay, the FijiFirst party had very clearly stated that we will keep the zero-rated VAT on the basic food items and prescribed medicine. You remember very well, in this studio and in our campaign, we had proposed that we will reduce the VAT from 15 to 10%. And obviously, a lot of the FijiFirst candidates at that time were going around and asking, where will I get the money? Of course, FijiFirst government reduced the VAT from 15 to 9%. That's fine. But then they put 9% VAT on basic food items. And we all know, I mean, this is simple economics. We all know that those people who are below the poverty line and those who are on the margins of the poverty line, they have serious issues. I mean, they spend the bulk of their income, weekly income, on food. Now, that is why most governments, most caring and compassionate governments, you don't go and buy perfume every week, you don't go and buy shoes every week, you don't go and buy bags every week, but every week you buy food. And that's where our real issue is, that's hitting the guts of our ordinary
Thank you very much,
people.
Mr. Prasad. Mr. Khaiyum, why did you decide to reduce VAT from 15% to 9% in 2016, and why did you include the zero VAT items in the list?
You know, I really wish Biman actually showed some intellectual honesty, seriously, because he knows that there are 6 items. Rice, flour, powdered milk, tin fish, cooking oil, and tea. They are not the 6 items that people live on. They don't live on tea alone. They don't live on powdered milk alone. Potatoes, onions, garlic, curry powder, dal, every single thing else. He only talks about shoes and clothes. Every other food item was reduced from 15% to 9%. You see, this is the level of dishonesty these people are displaying.
It's not dishonesty.
No, of course it is dishonesty, because you're only
you lied in
highlighting.
your manifesto.
I'll get back to that. He's only highlighting shoes and clothes and perfume. See, he went out somewhere and said that, oh, these people are only reducing it because they want to help the hardware companies. Nonsense. Nonsense. You buy toothpaste, you need soap, you need deodorant, you need sanitary pads. Every day you buy stuff that is not those 6 items. Overall, we actually lost $240 million as a result of reducing VAT from 15% to 9%. Yes, we brought up the VAT to all the other items, to 9%. Yes, we did say in our manifesto we'll continue with that. But we also are a government that's constantly looking at new ideas. If the objective of maintaining the overall the VAT exempt items is to keep the cost down, if you can come up with a better idea, a better methodology of reducing the overall cost of living, obviously we'll implement it. We're not going to be beholden to that idea. We did our studies. We talked to various institutions. We talked to international institutions. We talked to RBF. We did our own internal assessment. We're one of the very few countries in the world that has actually reduced VAT, and in a significant manner, from 15 to 9%. We did an assessment. Overall on a basic grocery item, we brought down prices by 4.5%. That's the overall reduction. But cost of living is not assessed on its own alone by looking at only VAT. VAT is not the only way of measuring cost of living. You look at your bus fare, you look at your school fees, you look at your electricity costs, you look at water. That's what I talk about social wages. They also need to be factored in.
Mr.
And
Prasad,
sorry, this is the last point I just want to make, is that the reality is that we have come up with a better system that now has increased compliance by shops because they no longer can cook the books. We have targeted assistance. You see, when you actually have VAT exempt items, a person who's earning $250,000 also does not pay tax. A person who earns only $10,000 also does not pay the VAT tax. It's not a targeted way of, helping poor people.
Mr. Prasad, you're an economist. What do you think of Mr. Syed Khaiyum's explanation about how they've decided to take the country forward as far as duties and taxes are concerned?
Well, Vijay, let me get back to the point. It's simple. I mean, you can add as many food items as possible, and this is one reason why we are saying, and we're saying that we're going to reduce VAT on 15 items. We will add
what are those 15
another
items?
8 items. We will announce it on the day when we launch our manifesto, so wait for that.
Okay.
So we understand that, what he's saying. But to actually hit the poor, those with incomes below the poverty line, with some of those basic items that they buy every week.
My question was in relation to social wages, what he said,
yes,
social
yes,
wages.
I understand that.
As an economist, the wider picture, the broader picture, as he put it, social wages, bus fare, electricity, water, medicine, all these issues that he factored in, and he said they decided to do that and reduce overall cost by 4.5%. As an economist, does it make sense?
Vijay, it will only make sense if you do the calculation. He's talking about the social wage, all the support that the government provides, income support, bus fare. If you look at the total and you look at what the government then takes away from those taxes. So it's not only VAT. I mean, $108 million would come back from the imposition of VAT on those 6 basic food items.
No, actually it was over $300 million loss.
So
when you take out the $108 million, the net effect is 240. Let's get the
correct that. Correct
net
that,
effect is
because
240.
you didn't
I'm
say
saying
the
the overall loss. Overall loss means the net effect.
So what that means is, then you got to factor in all the other taxes. Duties. You got to look at port charges.
Taxes?
You look at a lot of the food items also have import duties.
Come on.
And some of those import duties include duties on
what about
trade
the
as well.
burden? What about the burden?
Before he starts waffling on, please let me clarify.
No, I'm not waffling. Let me
You're
finish
being dishonest.
No, I'm not
Biman.
being dishonest.
You're being dishonest.
You
know that VAT is charged at the end price.
I know.
Freight costs, etc., gets factored in.
Don't teach me that.
You mislead the people.
I'm just saying that
you're misleading the people.
I'm just saying that there are other taxes as well, and we explain that.
So as an economist,
as an economist,
it's not a good thing what they did, according to your
I am
system.
very clear. I think the reduction in VAT overall is a good thing, but that imposition of 9% VAT, in fact, they should have done the opposite. They should have added more food items. If you go by his logic that people have other items as well, he should have added some more items. What we are suggesting is logical. And that's what we will do. We will have 15 items.
So it's logical. What
Vijay, the problem
the social wages, taking into account free school
logical,
fees
but
and all those other things.
He's also
is that
contradicting
logical?
himself. He's saying that you need more food items.
Okay, will you continue with those policies? Let's get to that. I think people would be interested in that.
What we will do is, as I said, in 2014, we will reduce the VAT from 15 to 10%. They reduced it from 15 to 9%.
I'm talking about the social wages, as he said, goes together. Will you continue with that?
We will continue with that, 15 to 9%, but we will make 15 food items VAT-free.
No, I'm
That's
asking about those other things, the free school fees. Will you continue with what they had introduced?
I've said this all along. I said some of the social policies that this government brought was good, bus fare, social welfare allowances, all these good policies will continue.
Just list it down, which ones you will continue with, so that the people would know.
I said to you last time when I was here, bus fare scheme,
You'll continue with free
social welfare allowances, poverty assistance, and all the other social welfare benefits that are there in the budget. So people should be rest assured. And I know there's been some babble defecation of lies around the country by some FijiFirst candidates that, if NFP government comes in, we will take away all these social policies. I met this old man, who came to our meeting and said, I was afraid to come because I was told that if I go to an NFP meeting, my social welfare allowance will be gone. And I said, no, we're not going to do that.
Is that correct?
Let me get back to what he said. He again is misleading the public. He talks about, there are other taxes. You see, the problem is he's put himself in a particular position, taken this particular position against a policy. He's finding it hard to extricate himself from that position, even though it is a good economic sound policy, even though it commercially and financially makes sense. So he's sort of, beating around the bush. The reality is that when he talks about the other taxes, what other taxes are there on food items? There is duty, but at the end of it, when you go to the supermarket and you buy a particular item, a food item, the duty is factored into the price, then you put the VAT. Now, he also knows that we have reduced duty on many items. Many food items we reduced duty or zero-rated duty on that. So there's hardly any room for movement in that. The other thing that they also, go on about food items. Many food items in Fiji are actually imported from offshore. I'll give you flour, one of the VAT-exempt items that used to be there. Flour is imported. Only 2 companies in Fiji make flour, Punja & Sons, FMF. They buy wheat from Australia, used to buy from the Australian Wheat Board. The Australians sell it at a particular price. We price control it. That's another way of controlling price. So when Punja & Sons, for example, makes the flour, grinds the wheat, makes the flour, we price control it when they wholesale it. Then when they sell it to the supermarket, we price control it again. So that's how also we control pricing. Now, if today, if the Aussies are selling it $1,000 a ton, and tomorrow or 1 month's time, because there's a drought, they start selling it at $5,000 a ton, obviously the price of flour will go up. We can't expect Punja & Sons or FMF to sell at the same price if the input cost is going to be $1,000. They don't tell the public that. They don't tell the public. The other day somebody said to me about how a taxi driver said to him, government has put up the price of fuel. NFP said they'll bring down the price of fuel. I mean, we are
rubbish. Nobody said
we
that.
are price taggers. Don't say rubbish. You said the old man said I did not say rubbish. Just control yourself. The reality is that this is the kind of talk that's going around. We need to educate the public. If we were going to play politics with it, we would have kind of somehow or the other stalled the increase in price of fuel. It just happened a couple of weeks ago. We could have said, it's election period, let's not do it. But we are running an economy. We are running a financial system. The businesses, the workers all need to feel confident, because there is always a lot of confidence built when you have certain processes that are always adhered to. And that's precisely what's happened. They talk about, the only reason why the economy has grown is because of the fact there's a lot of government spending. Nonsense. There is government spending, but that's not the only reason. Private sector investment as a percent of GDP has increased significantly. He always goes on about ease of doing business. If that was the only factor in determining investment, why has private sector investment as a percent of GDP increased significantly? We have already made statements regarding that. We've got the Singaporeans now helping us with various processes. I can also tell him that there are about 30 people filled out the questionnaires. 7 or 8 of them came from the law firm that he associates himself with. Obviously, we get a skewed result. The World Bank has recognized that. We're actually talking to them. World Bank is actually working with us. Now, to use that to try and undermine the economy is actually not a very good position to be. In fact, it's not very nationalistic from that perspective. So there are a number of factors at play. There are a number of issues that we need to deal with. We are not running some social club. We are running a government in the 21st century, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, we have to deal with a globalized world.
Thank you, Mr. Said. Khaiyum, now still on duties and taxes because it affects the pocket. Mr. Prasad, you have said that you are planning to reduce import duty. That was on the Monday night show, planning to reduce import duty on dairy products, snacks, biscuits, noodles, fruit juice, exercise books, bags, etc. When will you do that, and how much will you reduce it by, knowing that they are all imported items?
Vijay, as I said to you the other day, when we come into government, we will be obviously looking at the books, what the state of the finances are, and what sort of situation with respect to different industries are, and we will make an assessment, and we will have a balance as to what the duty should be. I mean, for example, with respect to the dairy industry, I mean, that was a very bad decision by this government to actually sell Reva Dairy and give one particular company zero duty concession for 10 years and put duty on all other importers of 32%. And what we've seen...
when will you reduce the prices of those items? That's my question.
Basically kill the industry. So we are going to do that as soon as we come into government and as soon as we've made the assessment of the finances.
Now, knowing that most of
I
those
want
things...
to be able to respond to the dairy industry, but I'll let you question.
But knowing that these are our local industries also have dairy, snacks, biscuits. We have some big companies which are locally produced. We have a big workforce that relies on this.
Noodles.
Exercise books, noodles, bags, shoes, etc. Now, FijiFirst, what do you think of this big change that will come from your assessment?
Well, frankly, I don't see any big change. And secondly, again, he's not been able to articulate. You see, what I've said is that if you look at, for example, if you go to Australia, and if they go into election mode, the opposition parties actually have they have a budget, they have an alternative budget. They factor that in. He's an economist, he should be able to do that. The reality is that everything is now, we'll consult, we'll look into the first 100 days, we'll look at the books are there. You can go to FIRCA and get how much duty we're paying. And right, precisely what you're saying, we produce noodles ourselves. He's going to now allow Malaysian and Indonesian noodles to come at a cheaper reduced duty and kill off the noodles that are made here by FMF and the other companies. Is he going to allow the importation of cheap biscuits from Malaysia and Indonesia and kill off our biscuit factory manufacturers over here that also sell locally? See, these are policies that are being announced on the trot without much rhyme or reason. We need to be able to take an economically responsible position. Let me get back to the dairy industry. The dairy industry, Rewa Dairy Cooperative Limited had stacks of debt, over $17 million in debt. We had a lot of corruption in Rewa Dairy. We were able to reconfigure the balance sheet. We actually then were able to sell Rewa Dairy itself and get a $10 million. The farmers now have Class B shareholders. They've been getting a dividend every year from Fiji Dairy Limited without any liability, no debt hanging over their head. We now have more money paid for the farm gate. Yes, the company that took in and paid and took over a $17 million debt plus $8 million for it was given a level of protection. The protection is about to expire in 2 years' time. It's about to finish. The reality is that Honorable Prasad has been, I'll still call him Honorable, kind of slip into that, I feel like I'm in Parliament. But Honorable Prasad...
Parliament has been dissolved already.
Okay. Well, maybe he's still Honorable. But I don't know. But the reality is this. He is on record for saying import substitution does not work. I remember we were at a financial / tax get together in Fiji Revenue Customs Authority. See, what he's basically saying is import substitution does not work. If you are not good at producing a particular product, don't get into that space, right? You import it. So basically what he's saying, allow the importation of milk from New Zealand and Australia. Let's kill off the local Fijian dairy industry. That's what's going to happen. They'll dump it on our doorstep.
You killed it despite
Basically, we have not killed it. There are still dairy farmers in Fiji that actually make out a living. Some may eke out a living, some are making a very good living from that. So we also had a lot of the dairy lands, the leases weren't renewed. I mean, during 2001 to 2006, as you know, what happened after 2000. A lot of the dairy farmers, I know met dairy farmers who now live in the Suvarnasori corridor, who left their farms because of what happened in 2000. Now, but that's the reality. The reality is that currently the New Zealand government is working with Minister Inia Seruratu and his team to fix up the price mechanisms in the dairy industry and actually provide assistance to us. This company that he always has a go at, because he's got some political proclivity or whatever he may think about it, they actually have offered $1 million to help in respect of the animal diseases, to look at, the hooves. When the hooves of the cows aren't healthy, they actually don't produce very good milk. I can talk about that for quite some time. The reality is we are working towards that. If the New Zealand government thought that the dairy industry was in shambles like he's trying to portray, they would not be assisting us. So the fact of the matter, you need to get off the train. You see, because you jumped on the train, you thought this is a good thing. He's been at it for the past 4 years. He's thinking, I'm on a good wicket. In the same way, see, when you are a politician, if you want to be a good leader, you need to be always open to new ideas. You need to be able to say, these things are good. Okay, this has worked. Maybe I said it did not work before, but now it's working. You need to have that level of humility and political humility to be able to do better for the country, because our objective is that the country benefits.
Vijay, I think he's getting into those details to actually obfuscate what the reality is. The reality is that the decision that they took has actually killed the dairy industry. Because
proof
what has
whatsoever.
happened, it's down to about 6 million litres.
What will you do?
What we have said is
he does not talk about brucellosis and TB.
I'll tell you.
Let's go forward. What will you do?
I said that
he's got one of his donors who wants to have the open industry.
I told them what to do about tuberculosis. They didn't listen. And today, the whole dairy industry, what we said is we will provide direct support to the farmers, research, extension, training. And he's right. New Zealand government is only helping because they know that the policy that this government actually put in place is killing the industry.
No, they're working in complement.
This company, Vijay, which has got the concession, they import zero duty milk products, powder, and they sell it at a price which is almost like equivalent to what the other importers who pay 32% duty and make millions of dollars, and I don't think they have put enough into the dairy industry. And I see just on the eve of the election, they're increasing the price of milk per liter, the company. And basically, it shows that the dairy industry is almost on the verge of collapse.
You will take away the protection, you will reduce the duty
We
on
are
imported dairy
going,
products.
I've said this in Parliament very clearly when I moved that
We are
motion.
not in Parliament.
No,
We
no,
are on straight talk.
I'm just giving
We
an
are on straight
example.
talk. We are
I'm
not
just
in Parliament.
I'm just
You're
giving,
not in
I'm just
Parliament.
giving an example.
We are on straight talk,
No,
gentlemen.
you're jumping the gun.
No, no,
What
no,
I-
I'm
what
not
I- what I
jumping the
said-
gun.
what
We
I
are
said-
right
what
here.
I said, what I said.
What
is-
will you do?
What I said is, I said that in Parliament, that we will provide direct support to the farmers in terms of research, extension, and training. We will review the whole agreement, and he's saying that agreement is about to come to an end, and then we will look at what the farmers
So
need.
you will review and decide what you will give to the dairy industry, to that company?
No, what we've said, he's already said that it's coming to an end. But if it was not going to come to an end, we would have ended it.
Vijay,
You would have ended it?
Yes.
And you will reduce the imported
Yes,
dairy
we would.
product
And we would provide direct support. In fact, let me give you an example. If they had
Gentlemen,
provided-
we can't talk about milk all night. Let's move on.
I have to clarify.
No.
I have to clarify.
You have to give me time to actually
I have
clarify
to
that.
clarify this.
I'll give you 2 minutes each.
Okay,
Well,
you go ahead.
well,
Ladies first.
you go ahead.
No, please.
I'll let
please,
you go
please,
ahead.
Please,
because
please.
You're wasting time now.
No. Let him.
See, the reality is this, because he thinks he's going to have the last say. But anyway, let me say this. If he wants to make a concrete policy, he says he's got a policy. Why didn't he read the agreement? The agreement is made public. Everybody knows what the agreement says. The agreement says the concession ends in 2 years' time. It was only for 10 years. It ends. So number one, so he has
They
not
made the
done.
money.
He has not done the research, and he's making a policy. Number two, the reality is that this company has been putting in various milestones, has to be achieved by this company. Otherwise, there's penalties imposed upon them. Number three, he's contradicted himself. He said that his position on import substitution still stands. So he's going to open up the market. We're going to compete directly. What he does not tell us is that the Rewa Dairy Cooperative Limited also had protection. They also could bring in imported bulk cheese, bulk milk. They could mix and make the Rewa life. He does not tell you that. Rewa Dairy actually had the protection. So the reality is, he's contradicted himself by opening up the market, allowing all this cheap milk to come in. Then he says he's going to help the farmers.
Thank you,
On
Mr.
the other
Sethi.
hand, sorry, the fact of the matter is
You don't have a sound
that
policy.
Under this government.
Sorry,
under
the other
their
point I want to
policy-
make, sorry.
Under their
He does
policy,
not talk about brucellosis and TB.
I've talked about it. I warned them about 4 years ago that that will kill the industry. They did nothing.
Oh, so now TB and brucellosis has killed the
They
industry.
did nothing.
See?
Their
Again, it's
policy
contradiction.
has killed the industry. They're struggling to explain that. It's down from 11 million liters to 6 million liters. The farmers are living in the industry and they have no
Moving
idea
on,
how to
question
fix
from
it.
people.
Biman, show some intellectual honesty. Come on, man. Come
Question-
on.
You know the figures. You know
Show
the figures.
it.
It's down from 11 to 6
Show some
million.
intellectual honesty,
Questions
please.
from people
Please.
that has come in for both gentlemen. I received that earlier today. If the cost of living is so high and out of line, how do you explain the large number of cars on the road, crowded food courts and cinemas? Mr. Prasad.
Well, you see, there are a number of things that have happened, Vijay. We reduced we increased the income threshold to 30,000. Duties on cars, especially hybrid cars, came down. And so those people in that category obviously would be able to afford these cars, and we're not saying that that's a bad thing. So, these are examples that people can use and suggest that things are happening this way or that way. But the fact of the matter is that when you look at about 50% of the households in this country, 28% below the poverty line, and another 25% just on the margins of the poverty.
come on.
These
Come
people
on.
are struggling to make ends meet. And that is why we are saying that the government needs to look at very carefully its policy of imposing 9% VAT on basic food items, and we know, and he agrees that there should be more food items, and that is why we
I
have
never said that.
That is why
I never
we have
said that.
we
Don't
are
put
going-
words in my
we-
mouth.
We are going to reduce
I never said
VAT
that.
on 15 items to ensure that those people who are struggling to make ends meet would have some relief.
You see?
Your poverty rate 28% or 50%?
No, I
What's
said
your-
28% are below poverty line, and another 25% is just on the margin. So you're looking at about more than 50% of the households struggling to
Mr.
make
Said
ends meet.
Khaiyum, that question was also for you. Mr. Prasad, you've had your chance. If the cost of living is so high and out of line, how do you explain the large number of cars on the road, crowded food courts and cinemas?
The question itself provides the answer to the question. The reality is that our GDP per capita has increased from $6,000 to $12,000 in Fiji since 2007. In other words, GDP per capita, income per person has all doubled. And that is the economic well-being that's currently in this country. If you listen to Biman, you would think that everybody in Fiji is dying of starvation. That's how he's trying to portray the whole place. And that is that's a reality.
You're misinterpreting per capita GDP, please, misinterpreting.
Please. The reality is that
it's
you
an
know,
average.
in the social wages too, there are people now who earn less than $30,000. They don't pay any taxes. So people have more disposable income in their pockets. That's a fact. The fact of the matter is, as much as they want to debunk, the reality is that civil servants have had a pay rise. As much as they want to debunk, the reality is that because of economic growth, we created 20,000 new jobs last year. The year before that, we created another 20,000 new jobs. Unemployment rate is now 4.5%, which is the lowest it's been in the past 20 years. So these are the economic indicators that does show. And people, of course, if somebody was dying of starvation and they had to choose between food and car, what would they choose? They would actually choose the food. So people are being able to access, yes, duty has come down. It does not mean just because duty has come down, I'm going to not eat rice and flour and go off and buy a car. The reality is you have to feed yourself first, then you actually go and buy your car. So these are economic indicators the economy is going well. And again, I want to reiterate, we are on a good wicket. We are going on a good path. Let's maintain the momentum. If we've been able to achieve this in such a short period of time, imagine what we can do with another few more terms of FijiFirst.
You're on Straight Talk with Vijay Narayan. Our guest tonight, FijiFirst General Secretary Aiyaz Said Khaiyum and National Federation Party Leader Professor Biman Prasad. Now moving on to the next issue, racial and religious vilification. A lot has been said in the campaign meetings over the past weeks where allegations have been leveled against NFP candidates, where it is alleged that they are talking about Muslim takeover, religious and ethnic engagement. Now, emails have also been cited. There was one email also that was sent to all the media in relation to some comments allegedly made by the NFP, former NFP provisional candidate, Mr. Firoz Ghulam Mohammed. Mr. Said Khaiyum, what is FijiFirst's concern?
You know, I remember, I think it was last year. It was last year when this thing was sort of starting to surface, and we were very concerned. And one morning tea time, I asked Biman, together with Pramod Chand, Prem Singh, Minister Bala, Minister Reddy, and I think Ashwin Sudhakar was there. We had morning tea time.
Yeah.
And I had, you remember, I had all these laws there, and I said to him, we are hearing all this talk about, religious vilification. Please, your people are doing it. In particular, I pointed to Pramod Chand. I said, stop it. And I did say to him that we have come from a historical background where we had ethnic and religious vilification. The Rambuka justified the coups on the basis of the Indian takeover, in his words. George Spade said in 2000, the Indians speak different, smell different, eat different. I said, let's not get into that space. We are all now Fijians, common and equal citizenry. Please don't do that. And I did say to Biman, I said, I don't know whether you're endorsing or not. Maybe you're doing it, whether you're endorsing it, whether you may not be doing it at all. Maybe your supporters are doing it. I did say that to him. And I said, let's not get into that. And he gave me his side of the story, said, I don't know, and I'm not doing this, blah, blah, blah. And I pointed to Pramod Chand. I said, he's doing it. He said, who accused? He said, one guy called Chotka. I remember this conversation. And I said, he's accused you of doing that. I pointed to Prem Singh. I said, I know in the last elections that you, in 2014, you said that if you vote for Benny Marama, all the Kattus will come in. I did say that. And I'm speaking in fact. He did not say anything to me, put his head down. And I did raise this. And we are concerned about that. Because you see, we believe that we must go and contest the elections on the basis of policies. We need to move away from religious and ethnic vilification and trying to win over votes because of that. One of his candidates has recently been charged. And I've said this, I had recorded a show with two TV stations yesterday, and I said Biman is impotent when it comes to things like racial and religious vilification. He always says NFP has been there for 59 years, we've been against it, etc. Let's talk about now. Roman Tiko Tiko Da was accused of sexual assault. He was withdrawn as a provisional candidate. Dr. Yunus has been charged with sexual assault or rape. Very quickly, his resignation came in. I'm told that these, NFP got them to resign very quickly.
He resigned on his own.
Okay, if he's resigned quickly, they accepted his resignation. They accepted it. You have to accept resignation. The third person who has been charged with racial or religious vilification, whatever it is, Biman is on record saying he's innocent till proven guilty. How come Dr. Yunus? How come he accepted his resignation, did not say you're innocent till proven guilty? So this is why the message that goes from him actually is not very good. It's a particular level of impotency. In Parliament too, numerous occasions, I've also said to him, I raised with him, and he may recall this if he's telling the truth, that one day I took my phone after we finished, I think it was lunchtime or morning tea time, I showed him some Viber messages from Firoz Muhammad. Because he was saying, because I've been to Hindu temples, and because I've, cracked the coconut, etc., and participated in the ceremonies, he showed me with the tikka. I don't have a problem with having a tikka. There's nothing wrong with that. This is part of the ceremony that they have. And I said, he's saying that I've become a Hindu. I told him that. I said, he's a provisional candidate. Then I also told him about Lenora Gerengere Tambua. When there was some mistranslation in the Tourism Fiji website about, the Valeni Lotu, people started commenting. They said, if it was to do with Islam, people would have been fired by now. And she, yes, true. See, this is the kind of insidious fanning of flames in respect of religion and ethnicity. And the Honorable Prime Minister is on record, and he has said, Biman is accusing our Prime Minister, saying, we are doing what doing. We are not. We have openly criticized what happened in 97, openly criticized in 2000, openly said this kind of vilification does not take place. Biman Prasad actually said that Tiko Da had his right to say all these list of Muslim names. He does not utter a word when Nico Nawekula and others.
Totally incorrect.
Nico Nawekula and
totally
them.
Incorrect.
Nico Nawekula and them. We did not object to it either. When
you read my speech in Parliament.
Nico Nawekula and them make racial comments and this divisive politics. They don't utter a word. When Karavaki talked about uncircumcised men perhaps not being closer to God, he did not utter a word. And I told him that. At that meeting I did tell him. I said, I will raise it. He did not utter a word.
Vijay,
so the fact of the matter is, we are very concerned. We want policies. We want the election for people to focus on policies. If you see social media, Vijay, it is rife. It is rife with religious and racial vilification.
We'll give the right of response to Mr. Prasad.
Thank you, Vijay.
Did the meeting, first of all, did the meeting take place?
Yes, we discussed that in Parliament. He's right, and I don't deny that. And in fact, it was a very useful meeting to have. And I did tell.
Anything changed after that?
No, listen. What I can tell you, what I can tell you is, I have taken a very firm view on this matter. I have said it publicly in all my meetings, in all my utterances, that NFP will not tolerate any of its supporters, candidates who engage in this kind of thing. Now, the real issue is, Aiyaz talks about social media and all that. I get this every day, photos of, of me, against, this, that. These are all. I have traveled around the country in the last 4 years. Not once somebody has come to me, even the most of the ordinary people in the villages, in the settlements, and talk to me about this issue. So I don't hear this at all. Now, I immediately raised this issue with my candidates, with my people. Both of them have denied that they ever engaged in this kind of thing. Pramod Chand, we did our own investigation.
What's the result of the investigation?
We found that all the people who were there in that meeting, we talked to them. They said Pramod Chand never said that.
Why don't you make it public?
I've talked to Pradeep Chandra, the candidate that he's referring to, and he has denied. The fact that FICAG has charged him does not mean that he is guilty, and we'll let the court decide that.
Why don't you take the same position on Dr. Yunus?
With respect to Dr. Yunus and Romano Tiko Da, these two gentlemen resigned on their own accord. We accepted their resignation. They said, this is a predicament that they are in, this is the allegation that has been made, and it is the right thing for them to do, to resign. And I accepted the resignation, and I said that was the right thing to do. With respect to Pradeep Chandra, he has vehemently denied that allegation. And as far as I'm concerned, and you know this as a lawyer, I mean, your candidate in 2014, Praveen Bala, was accused of killing somebody. He was charged. You gave him the seat. He contested the election. He became minister. Of course, he was acquitted. So we had to give this benefit of doubt to Mr. Pradeep Chandra. And I've said to him very clearly, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't talk about these issues. In fact, if anybody who's been talking about these issues, all I hear is from the FijiFirst people. They're saying, this is what NFP candidates are saying. I have, Vijay, traveled around the country. Not a single person ever has said anything like that to me or raised. There was one question raised in 2014. And I immediately told the guy, I said, look, the NFP is going to campaign on issues. And if you look at all my speeches, all the candidate speeches, I absolutely agree with Aiyaz. We don't condone, nobody should condone that. And as I said, I will take a very, very strict view of that. And his argument, the other point that he keeps on harping about, and goes around defecating these, lies.
Defecating?
Verbal defecation of lies, that comes from...
You're saying I'm shitting.
FijiFirst.
That's what he's saying, I'm shitting.
From FijiFirst candidate is that I keep quiet. And Prime Minister said I'm ducking under the table. You go and read my speech in Parliament with respect to Ratu Soatikoda. It's not for me. I mean, they say everybody is a Fijian. 32 of them are sitting on the other side. Sometimes, somebody makes a statement from this side. The response, goes to the government. That doesn't mean that I'm sitting there and
What did you say?
And I said very clearly that we will not accept this. You got to read
Except
my
what?
speech.
Except what?
Any religious vilification or racial vilification of any sort. I'm on record on Parliament. Now, this is the kind of lies that they are going around and telling the people
You've
that
had
we are
your
not
time
doing.
to address that. Now, Firoz Ghulam Muhammad. These emails, we were also CC'd on it. This email was also sent to the office of the Prime Minister. I don't know by mistake or he was in the email listing as well. It's here and it was sent to all the media plus the Supervisor of Elections and the Electoral Commission where the General Secretary of FijiFirst wrote to you raising concerns that over and over he's been talking to you. And this was Firoz Ghulam Muhammad's email. And he said, and they both are claiming to be Hindu, and that's Mr. Syed Khaiyum and Mr. Koya. Now, as both have been actively involved in Sanatan Puja, that's Hindu Puja, Khaiyum has laid the foundation of a mandir. Just for votes, they both sold their iman. What's your stand on this kind of emails?
I absolutely condemn any kind of religious vilification, Vijay, as I said. I've seen another email, and that was sent to Aiyaz by this Muhammad Yunus, where he's actually advising him not to attack Firoz Ghulam Muhammad because these are things that, these are religious conversations and they need to take it out of politics. So, I've seen...
I'm asking what's your stand?
My stand is very clear. And when there were other allegations on Firoz Ghulam Muhammad...
No, I'm asking about what's your stand on this?
I totally condemn that, and he's
condemn
denied.
That? You told Mr. Ghulam Muhammad?
I immediately called him and summoned him, and I said, and he's denied sending that email. He said, he doesn't use that email. And I said to Aiyaz...
How convenient.
I said to Aiyaz, report him to the appropriate authorities. Now, Vijay, let me just explain to you. There was another allegation about Firoz Ghulam Muhammad, and I said to him, and we did our own investigation, we got our IT people, and the CID also summoned him, they took him, they questioned him, they went through all his Facebook, and what they found, that, and he told me that right at the beginning, he said, these are fake accounts. So the CID, the police actually cleared him. Now, that doesn't mean that if he is doing that, we have condemned it and we are not going to tolerate any. But the point is that if that
Do you
is
believe you have done enough?
if that is his, it's not for me to take him to the law.
No, I'm just saying in general terms, do you believe you have done enough?
He has denied, I have done enough. I have told him we have got the police to actually investigate him.
No, for this one. For this one?
This one too. He is denied
the
it.
Police is not investigating
No,
him.
I've said to you, report him to the police. It's not for me, he's written to you, Aiyaz.
Vijay.
So he is denied that, and I've said to him
You've had
in
your
the email.
chance.
Vijay,
I said report to him to the authorities.
You see, Vijay, there are standards that need to be adhered to when you're in public life. And as a leader, you need to ensure that your candidates, your officials, your representatives actually adhere to particular standards. Now, it does not mean that standards are only established through a criminal prosecution. There's certain ethical and moral positions you need to take. Now, in the same way that he's saying that this third person has been charged for religious vilification, he is actually innocent till proven guilty. Yes, of course, in the criminal justice system that is the case. Same thing with Dr. Yunus. But the fact is, it's his responsibility.
Dr. Yunus resigned on his own accord.
No, exactly. The point is that he accepted the resignation. If he had such a principled stance on innocent till proven guilty, he would have said, no, I don't accept your resignation. You're innocent till proven guilty. You see, this is the double standard.
That was his choice. This was not his choice.
No. It's a question of principle. It's a question of principle.
It's a very
question of principle.
Mr. Prasad, you've had your chance.
It's a question of principle, you see. If he believes in the principle of innocent till proven guilty, he would have said to Dr. Yunus, no, you're innocent till proven guilty, you stay on. In the same way, he's asking this guy to stay on.
So you believe that he hasn't done enough?
No, of course not. There's a lot of double standards that's been implemented. The reality is that whether Biman is doing it himself or not, I don't know. Nobody's ever said to me that he himself is doing it. But I believe, and we believe, and a lot of people have told us, that his supporters, his candidates are actually engaged in that kind of behavior. They need to move away from that. And we are very overall concerned about a country that has got the historical proclivities to racial religious vilification. Let's move away from that. Let's focus on policies. Let's focus on issues. And his track record in Parliament isn't very good. Just because he may, let's take his word for it, if he made some kind of statements regarding Tikoda, then what about other instances? There are numerous other instances. We can go and watch a whole four-year session where he's kept quiet about it. And the Honourable Prime Minister is absolutely right. He does not say anything about it. And that's just as good as ducking under the table.
You're on Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Our guest tonight, Aiyaz, Said Khaiyum, and Professor Biman Prasad will be back right after this break.
Straight Talk with Vijay Narayan continues after the break.
Vambe maina singavo Lani mureli wa mai Seni kau era serakatu Divini ke rai rai rai
Seni ve ungalili na chiale Seni via via sisi au mate Thoriva kime nongu salu salu Firi awa nongu bakana nanu Seni kau tama beka Lala kali mama na leba Seni ro
This is Straight Talk with Vijay Narayan.
Welcome back. We are on Straight Talk, and Aiyaz said Khaiyum and Biman, Prasad are in studio tonight with us on Straight Talk. Now, going on to another issue that a lot of people have been talking about, they would want to know more information. Our debt stands at about $5.1 billion. It is about around 46 to 47% of GDP. The debt to GDP ratio is the ratio of a country's public debt to its GDP. By comparing what a country owes with what it produces, the debt to GDP ratio indicates its ability to pay back its debts. Now, Mr. Prasad, what is your comment on debt? As some people have also gone to the extent of saying, misleading people, that China is about to take over Kandavu.
Well, that's not what I've said. All I'm saying is
have you condemned it?
All I'm saying is this is a government which has continued to pile up debt. We might have increased our GDP, and debt to GDP ratio is less than 50% because the GDP has increased over the last 3 or 4 years, and that's understandable. But you got to look at, I mean, in 36 years, we had piled up debt, over 2 billion. We piled up another 2 billion or something, and now we're down to the debt level of about 5.1, 5.2 billion. The issue is that we have an economy which is growing on tourism and spending, and it's not a great thing to just borrow and spend. I mean, anybody can do that, and when you have a government which guarantees loans, of course there would be people who would be willing to lend. But what's the implication of the debt level that we have, even though it's below 50% of GDP? This financial year, our debt servicing commitment is about $635 million, of which about $332 million is just interest, which means that you need to collect about $53 million a month to accumulate $635 million debt servicing commitment.
Do you believe the government has the capacity to collect that money?
Well, government may have the capacity, but
you definitely see the budget.
Where do you get that money from? And this is why I'm saying that if you look at how government has been piling up the burden of taxes on our people, fees, fines, charges, VAT on basic food items, if you put all this together, it's a commitment that will have to be paid by the future generations, will have to be paid by the current generation, and that is our concern.
Mr. Said Khaiyum?
Again, he's not being intellectually honest. The reality is that Prime Minister Bainimarama in 2008 inherited a debt stock of $2.8 billion from the previous government.
That's after 36 years.
Now, Vijay, the reality is $2.8 billion. When he talks about $36 million, he does not actually tell you that debts are actually accumulated by all governments, and the subsequent governments actually have to pay off the debts of the previous governments. So it's what you call a cumulative and a running debt. Part of the debt, what he's not telling what, which his friend Rambuka, he actually then collapsed the National Bank of Fiji, that actually created an intergenerational debt for us. Because you see, the thing is, they actually went out and borrowed money to salvage the bank. If you borrow money to build something, that's actually good debt because you're building something. But if you actually borrow money to pay off something that you should not have accumulated as a loss or a debt in the first place, that's actually bad management of the economy. Number point one, he does not say that. Reality is, yes, the debt is $5.1, $5.2 billion Fijian dollars, US about $2.4, $2.5 billion. Our debt to GDP ratio has decreased. Yes, the economy has grown, which is a good thing. So when you, in the example that I give to the voters when we go out and campaign, if Honorable Prasad is earning $30,000 and he's got a debt of $20,000 and you earn $500,000 and you've got a debt of $100,000, obviously he's in a worse off position, even though the nominal value of his debt is $20,000, which is only 20% of your debt, because you've got a better capacity to pay off the debt. It makes very simple sense. They don't look at that, and this is why is harping on about the nominal figure of $5.2, $5.1 billion. But as a percent of our GDP, it has decreased. Now, we also have very good strategy in place, and he knows about this. The reality is that 70% of our debt is onshore, approximately, plus or minus 5%, and 30% is offshore. We're now borrowing at interest rates, plus or minus 5%, we are now borrowing at interest rates that are far more attractive than what they were, and for example, under the Garase. In the global bonds, they're much higher interest rates. So we are actually managing our debt properly. We are working, for example, with the Commonwealth to try and consolidate our T-bills, to create secondary market trading in our T-bills. At the moment, T-bills are actually taken, people put in the drawers. We want to get into electronic trading in the T-bills and our bonds, so we create secondary market trading, which makes our bonds look more attractive. We have now listed our green bonds in the London Stock Exchange. Now, obviously, if we were a country that was not managing our finances well, the London Stock Exchange would not actually let us list our bonds. We have to jump through so many loops. The reality is, they're talking about, the future generations will have to pay for this, etc. The reality is, many of the infrastructure projects that we have now, Nambolo Draketi, Buddha Bay, Motor Road, Singatoka Valley Road, Savaniseria Road, all of these roads are now tar sealed. It's created a lot of productive capacity. We've got the 4-lane roads that's done out of Nandi Airport. What does that mean? It means the future generations don't have to build a 4-lane road. It's better to build infrastructure now than to build it later. We are planning for the future. So, for example, they're going on about the cost of a road, it's $3 million as opposed to it could be done $1.5 million. They're not looking at all the ancillary services. When we build this road, we put all the underground electrical cables, electrical cables underground. We're building resilience in the infrastructure. The next time there's a cyclone, nothing blows down. So, the fact of the matter is that our private sector investment has also grown as a percentage of GDP. We're in a good place. Of course, debt needs to be managed. Of course, we need to do things smarter. And we have been doing smarter things. We are working with different agencies to do that. And believe you me, the way that the economy is growing, you'll see our debt as a percentage of GDP decrease. The other thing he forgets to also mention, Cyclone Winston cost us $1.3 billion of our GDP. We've already spent $500 million because of Winston, Gita, Josie, all these cyclones. If they had not happened, we would have not spent that $500 million. Much better space. Reality is, we have climate change. Reality is, we have to invest in infrastructure. Reality is, you cannot condemn government spending infrastructure because we need that.
On to another issue, you both have differing views on this. Mr. Syed Khaiyum, why does the FijiFirst think that it is necessary to take this step and implement the term contracts for civil servants?
Okay. When the OMRS system came into place, we already had...
Open Merit Recruitment System.
We already had nearly 70% of the civil servants who already were on contracts. Now, NFP is saying that they won't have contracts for them, they'll have jobs for life, or whatever it is that they're saying, the old system. What we are saying is that we'll have 5-year contracts, we have 3-year contracts. He's highlighted, I think, in your show saying that, some people are given a 1-year contract. Some people have, because of various reasons. Because, for example, they may not meet the minimum qualification requirements. So they are given 1 year, for example, to upgrade themselves. Then they get the 3 or the 5-year contract. Teachers, for example, if they fulfill those requirements, they get the 5-year contracts. There's nothing wrong with it. The reality is that we also have automatic renewal of contracts. The reality is that people are given training. The reality is when they talk about the 5-year contract, they don't actually talk about the pay rises that people have received because of the civil service reform. The civil service reform has different components to it. For example, if I can talk about the education sector, it's not just about the OMRS, getting the job tests, etc. done, but there's also issues, for example, pertaining to the structure of the Ministry of Education. He's very archaic. He'll understand. One of his mates is involved in the structure program. Your friend Grewal, he's involved in this restructure that's going on. Because a lot of these structures actually are from the colonial times. We need to decentralize it. The whole modus operandi of the Ministry of Education is all these education officers have to be, looked after by the teachers as opposed to them looking after the teachers. I've said this quite a lot of times, and I'm quite passionate about that. We need to really look after the teachers. The government has also provided in this year's budget, for example, scholarships for teachers to upgrade from diploma to degree to master's to PhD. Never been done before in the way that it has been done now. So we put that. That's one part of the restructure. The other part of the restructure is, for example, things like curriculum syllabus. And I'm sure he'll agree with me that we need to upgrade that. as a former academic, and he said this in Parliament. We need to get specialists to actually develop our syllabus and our curriculum. The system has been, teachers who have been teaching come and run the curriculum and syllabus divisions. You can't have that. We have the asset management unit being run by former teachers. They know nothing about construction. So that's another aspect of the civil service reform. But the contract is one part of it. There's absolutely nothing wrong. People in the private sector, people I'm sure who work in this organization don't get a job for life. They get a 3-year, 5-year contract. They are able to get loans. There are many teachers who are very satisfied with what has happened. So there's nothing untoward about it. There's also now, before I finish off, is the bonus system now. They're all being assessed individually. People get recognized for the individual performance. That's the overall, in a nutshell, in a very quick summary, part of the reforms.
Mr. Prasad, why do you think there should be permanent contracts, as you have said that this is one of your immediate priorities?
Vijay, I think the civil service is in a big mess. And let me tell you why. If you look at the Constitution, and I've said this in Parliament on many occasions, the Constitution actually provides for the provision where any appointment or promotion has to be with the agreement of the minister concerned. So what we have seen over the last 3 or 4 years, and of course, during the military government, all this haphazard manner in which civil servants have been hired, civil servants have been sacked, civil servants have been promoted, and it's created so much instability in the system. And this is one of the reasons, and I actually said this, as I said, I actually feel sorry for this government because some of the policies that you want to implement, you don't have an official civil service.
I don't recall that, but
in any democracy, the civil service is the most important machinery, in terms of making sure that the policies are implemented effectively. And for civil servants to do that efficiently and effectively, they need the security of employment, they need certainty, stability. I mean, ministers are politicians, they will come and go. This is why the permanent secretaries are called permanent secretaries, they are there, Ministers would come and go. Ministers' job is in Parliament
to this, please, legally.
to look at the policies. Now, what has happened is because this government has done all this in a haphazard manner, it has not created the confidence and the stability in the civil service. And of course, over the last so many years, the unions themselves have not had the role, and the whole tripartite forum, tripartite negotiation has been completely destroyed. And that is why we are saying that it is very important for us to bring a permanent, tenured employment in the civil service and for the teachers. Let me just talk to you about the teaching profession. In fact, if you look at what has happened in the teaching profession over the last probably 18 years, the last Education Commission was held in 2000. Since 2000, there have been so many reforms, so many changes. The military government, took away the exams. The FijiFirst government, brought the exams. And there has been no thorough expert analysis of how and what has been the impact on the actual quality and the outcome in our education system.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prasad.
Let me
have a
finish
few
this.
more
Let me
issues
finish this.
left.
Let me finish this. So what we are
I'll give
saying.
you a minute.
So what we are saying is, when we come into government, we will set up an education commission so that there is a proper expert analysis of what has gone in the last 18, so that we can
Thank you very
institute.
Can I just legally correct him? The fact of the matter is, ministers don't appoint people. Legally, the permanent
They don't appoint, but it has to be with the agreement of the minister.
Permanent secretaries are appointed by the Public Service Commission. The permanent secretaries' salary even comes with the Public Service Commission. They are given a particular mandate. The permanent secretaries oversees the appointment of staff, promotions, etc. It comes to the minister for concurrence. A minister cannot go against the recommendation of the panel unless there is something highly untoward. If, for example, what he forgets to tell you, if, for example, there is any untoward behavior, or a person who's actually applied for a job or applied for a promotion, they believe they've been aggrieved, they have one opportunity to, for example, go to the Public Service commission, they have an independent arbitrator who actually then assesses your appeal. You can actually appeal that. If you have been disciplined, you have to go to the Public Service Disciplinary Tribunal, which is again an independent body, which is again headed by a magistrate or a judge. You also have other avenues through legal means to be able to seek recourse. Here actually does not tell you that.
Mr. Syed Khaiyum, just on the Constitution, some things you said you'll be making changes to that. What changes are you looking at?
Vijay, I talked about changing the decrees, the draconian decrees.
They are called acts.
Yes, you made it act.
It's Act of Parliament that made it an act. Follow the law.
In fact, a lot of people don't know that all the decrees from 5th December 2006 until the last decree on 3rd October 2014, where they actually determine their own salaries, all those decrees are preserved under Section 173 of the Constitution. And what we have said, that there are many decrees that or acts of Parliament now, that we would like to change, and that would be our first priority when we get into government.
Will you change some things in the Constitution as well?
Well, as I said to you in our conversation last time, it's almost impossible to change this Constitution, and I'm actually quite surprised that the framers of the Constitution put that provision. Because you need about 75% majority in Parliament, and then if once it's approved in Parliament, you need 75% majority.
But are you planning to change something?
No, I'm saying that it's almost impossible to change the Constitution unless you have a very bipartisan consensus approach within the Parliament where you are able to...
I'm sure the voters would want to know whether NFP will review the Constitution.
I'm just telling you the practicality of how you can change this Constitution.
I know the practicality. Yeah. It's in the Constitution. 75% of Parliament and 75%
if we get into a situation where we have a consensus in Parliament, we'll be talking to other parties.
The voters are listening watching. Will you make any changes?
We will seek a review of the Constitution.
You will seek a review?
We will seek a review of the
Constitution. What sections of the Constitution?
Well, there are various sections of the Constitution that we
Which ones?
For example, where all those decrees are preserved, Section 173 of the Constitution. There are things about conversational Hindi and Fijian. We would like to say that, Eat Okay. We would like to say, we need to have, formal Hindi and Eat Okay taught as compulsory subjects in primary school. He may say that that provision doesn't stop schools to teach that, but there is a provision in the, and I can give you many other examples. But our priority,
I can't believe this.
Our priority would be to change the decrees in the Constitution.
So you will be looking at a review of the Constitution.
We will be seeking a review of the Constitution.
I cannot believe they want to get rid of the provision that says the teaching of compulsory conversational Eat Okay and Fiji Hindi is compulsory.
You didn't listen to me carefully.
No, let me finish.
Yeah.
And he said that I might say that, people can have the option of learning, should Hindi and, proper Itoke Vasavakaviti.
Formal Hindi.
Well, formal Hindi.
And
formal Hindi and formal. Those subjects are already taught. Now, not everybody wants to study formal Itoke or formal Hindi. What we are saying is that they don't necessarily want to, but the teaching of conversational Itoke and conversational Fiji Hindi is important. Because as we know, that language is a barrier to people actually communicating with each other. Your ability to joke with somebody in their language actually helps bridge a lot of the gaps. This is why it's important to have everybody have a basic knowledge of conversational Itoke, conversational Fiji Hindi, so they can converse with each other in the street. They go and buy mangoes, whatever it is, groceries, dalo, whatever. They can converse. It creates that good civic togetherness. That's the whole purpose of it. But if I want to learn formal Itoke, if I want to learn formal Hindi, I have that option to do that too. And this is only in primary schools.
Thank you very much, Mr. Syed Khaiyum. Moving on to the next issue, we've got just 2 or 3 issues left, which our listeners had sent about. Now, Itoke land lease distribution system, it's equal at the moment. What is NFP stand on it?
Vijay, as I said the other day, there are different views about that. Some people feel it's a good system, some people have issues. And as far as the NFP is concerned, when we come into government, if we feel that there are different viewpoints, we will facilitate further conversation on that. But
you don't have a straight answer at the moment?
No. My straight answer is that I know that there are differences of opinion. Some people like the system. Some people are very happy with the system. Some people don't like
As
it.
leader of NFP, will you
as,
keep
as,
or
as the leader
will
of
you
the
go to the old
as
system?
the leader of the NFP, my job would be when we get into government to actually see where the conversation is. If we need to have
Review and
dialogue,
consult?
review and consult, and if it is necessary to review that, to look at that, we will do that in consultation with the
Khaiyum?
people.
See, again, the impotency comes through quite clearly. They don't actually have a specific policy. It's everything. We'll see what's going to happen.
We're not dictators like you. We would
see,
like
again,
to consult.
He's getting really worked up now. So keep your calm.
Don't
keep your
use
calm.
the word important.
Keep your calm. Keep your calm. Keep your calm.
no.
If you know the English language, you know what it means,
Yeah.
right? Now, the thing is, he is impotent about these things because he is very soft on many of the subjects. He does not have a decisive, answer to this. And I'll continue to say that. It was not an imposition. The reality is, Vijay, the law at the moment as it stands is that there is equal distribution of land lease monies amongst all members of the landowning unit. The equal distribution also is distributed to those who are, minors, children. Some of them have huge amounts which they'll be able to access once they get 18 years. But there is nothing in the law stopping anybody from using that money whichever way they like. So if, for example, I feel when I get my money that I have to give it to the head of the clan, or I have to give it to the chief, I have to give it to Turanganikoro, that's my choice. I make that choice and I do that. So their position is somehow or the other it's an imposition. The reality is that we should not impose this on people. They're free to do whatever they like with their money. And in fact, some landowning units have actually come together. They made a consensus. They're saying, when we get our money, we'll give 25% of this money to this trust, or we'll give it to somebody else, we'll pay it. That's their choice. What is wrong with that? Of course, you'll always have in any country, no matter what policy you implement, some people will like it, some won't like it. But as a government, and that's when you have a strong leader, you actually provide a particular direction. In the same way, when the Family Law Act was introduced in Australia and various other places, people saw it as an affront to the patriarchal system. But it was the just thing to do. It was the right thing to do. Similarly, we have a situation in Fiji where we introduced the family law.
You'll maintain the equal distribution system.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Final question, and this is on FNPF pensions. Now, different views have come from political parties. Reports, consultants had come in, and over the years, many reports were prepared, but a decision was taken in 2011. Actuaries from Singapore and consultants from Promontory Group were hired by FNPF to carry out the pension reform at FNPF, and on June 30th, 2011, the consultants found and announced that the FNPF's total liabilities for 11,000 pensioners amounted to $565 million, compared with $312 million set aside for pension payments for FNPF. This meant that the shortfalls in pension income against pension payment would have to rely on heavy subsidization from current workers, FNPF members' retirement savings to pay the difference. More critical than just the cross-subsidization of pension payments for FNPF was the fact that by the year 2050, FNPF would have no more money to give out as pensions and thus fail its first obligation, which is to a workers' retirement fund. Now, FNPF pension rates were reduced. Over the years, it was not reduced, and the step was taken after this report came out, and of course the FNPF members know what had happened. Mr. Prasad, what is your stand on FNPF pension rates according to your broad policy? Will you change the rates?
Well, Vijay, we started at 25%, and of course that was reduced to 15%. And there were many reports even before that. Now, the issue is not what the actuarial report said and how they were projecting what might happen, over a period of time. It's the way in which the military government actually went ahead and made a decision on ending the contracts that many people had. A lot of people actually had planned their life, based on the pension that they were on.
Will you change the current rates?
And so a lot of them were unjustly removed from that contract. In fact, when they wanted to appeal, that government brought out a decree which basically said, you can't challenge it in court. So we have a big issue with respect to how those people were treated. There were some people who were on 25% pension, okay, but there were others, for example, who were getting $400 per month, and suddenly
Mr.
they
Prasad,
went down to
as
100.
I said, the FNPF members know what had happened. Will you change the current rates? What's your policy?
What we will do is we are going to increase the pension rate.
For everyone?
For everyone, because right now the pension rate is not lucrative.
8% is not lucrative?
It's not lucrative. Many people are not going on pension.
What will you
increase
it to?
A large percentage of the people don't even have enough money in
Mr.
in
Prasad,
their
what will
pension
you
account.
increase it to?
We will increase it to 10%.
10%. And do you believe this report that came out about that we were in trouble?
That report talked about 2050, as you said, right? And my view is, and our view is, that the government at that point in time did not have the agency, or should not have the agency, to actually reduce it from 15 straight to 8%.
Thank you. So you are looking at 10% for everyone.
Put all those people out of basically business, people who had planned their retirement, based on the pension that they were getting. And it was very, very unfair to a lot of those people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prasad. Mr. Syed Khaiyum, what is the FijiFirst stand on FNPF pensions?
FNPF, since the reforms, has already won at least 3 international awards because of the manner in which the reforms were carried out, and because of the very strong financial position that the FNPF is on. Now, these young men who are in this room, if we continued down that path that the FNPF had been on, when they retired, they would not have any money for themselves. That's the hardcore reality. That is the hardcore reality. Actuarial studies even prior to this, had already indicated that. World Bank and other independent assessments in the 1990s even had indicated. 80s and 90s had said the way that the fund was spending money, and the way some people were getting 25%, some were getting 21%, some were getting 19%, some were getting 15%, some were getting and some were getting 17%. The reality is this: the people he's talking about is less than 1,000 people whose actually amount came down. A lot of them had already been repaid the system. Imagine if you're getting 25%. Within 4 years, you get 100% back. They've been there for the 10, 15 years. They made a huge windfall. These are the people he's talking about. What he's not talking about, now under the new system, there is a provision now. There are some people, who may get paid very low wages. So their contribution not been high. So the actual amount they get was $10, $20. Now, nobody gets less than $100. That's guaranteed under the new law. He does not talk about that.
People are not going on pension because it's too small.
He does not talk about that. The reality is that, Vijay, under the old system, these people would have got $5, $10. Now at least you get $100. The reality now is the FNPF is in a financially very strong position. The reality is all these young men in this room will actually get their pension when they retire because the funds would not finish. How can you have a system? If he's honest about it, if you go to superannuation fund in Australia and New Zealand, the rate of return is 2%, is 3%. Here is actually legally a statutory provision. You'll get 8%. Statutory provision. You don't have those kind of statutory provisions elsewhere, and it's government guaranteed, as we know right from the beginning. So the reality is that FNPF is now making some good investments. The reality is that the write-backs that they have, they're written it, into the books now. The reality is we've actually salvaged Intercontinental. The cost of Natandola would have exceeded $1 billion. Those things needed to be done. FNPF at that point in time actually formed a JV with a person who is an undischarged bankrupt, who's subsequently been locked up in prisons. Momi, same thing. Already in New Zealand prisons. This is the kind of management situation that FNPF was in. He knows that. He knows all of that. So we've actually salvaged FNPF from that position. Financially, it's doing a lot better.
Thank you very much, Mr. Syed Khaiyum and Biman Prasad. We will wrap it up this evening. And just a final question. When is your manifesto coming out?
Very soon.
Very soon. Voters definitely would be interested in dissecting your manifesto. Is it coming out?
No,
this
as we
weekend,
said, Vijay, and I said to you the other day, is that we don't have any surprises. We're essentially building upon the foundation that's already put in place by our leader. We're going to build upon that, continue the momentum. And of course, we're a government, for example, that it constantly is looking at improving things. For example, in our manifesto, we did not have, the tax reduction, tax threshold, going up to $30,000. We did not have $1,000 for a baby. When we, for example, are into government, we want to get the fundamentals right. When the fundamentals are right, when we build upon the fundamentals, we can do a lot more. So our manifesto will be structured on that basis.
Vijay, as I said, we already announced all our major policies about 14 months ago. So again, most of the major policies are already there. People have understood that. People are critiquing that. And we deliberately wanted to do this not as a surprise. And that is why you can see now that we can debate some of this, but our detailed manifesto will be launched soon.
On behalf of our listeners on VTFM and viewers on Fiji Village, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I believe that people got a lot of answers tonight. Straight answers on what the two parties stand for, mainly in relation to economic policies, tax policies, and a lot of discussions have taken place. We'll be back next week. Next week on Tuesday night, we have Hope Party leader Tupou Drownindalo, and we are now into discussions with other party leaders and other candidates in relation to more straight talk next week, and the list should be out tomorrow. So stay with us and we'll get you more.
The 2018 general elections, the issues that matter, the people that matter. This is Straight Talk with Vijay Narayan.